Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew Cassinelli and I talk about what you need to do to protect yourself from a bug that may have exposed your voice history on Amazon's voice assistant. Plus, we talk about accessibility with Amazon's products and loads of information from Google, including some assistants that you may not want to have activated. We round things out with sleep tracking, wearables, and I go on a long trek, as it were, about the ecobee Smart Thermostat and my installation. All that and so much more coming up on Smart Tech Today. Smart Tech Today is brought to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? Well, LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Mint Mobile. They provide the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. Mint Mobile makes it easy to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month with their 3-month introductory plan and get the plan shipped to your door for free at mintmobile.com/STT. And by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is ridiculously fast. You can stream everything in HD quality with zero buffering. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/STT. Hello and welcome back to Smart Tech Today, where, of course, we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah.
Hello, Matthew. How's it hanging?
I am very warm because it's been extremely humid in the Bay Area and we're having like a weird freak weather thing. Coming off of a monsoon, I believe. And yeah, it's been 90 plus degrees for the last 3 days. And we had a thunderstorm that lasted all night into like 11 the next morning, which has never happened in the 7 years that I've lived here. So
my partner swears that he saw
with
hail.
The fire risk thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you did, but my partner swears he saw hail.
I thought so too, actually. So it's
really okay.
2020 is bringing it in full force.
Right. It's just like the weather. It's all just everybody's, checked out, including whatever it is that keeps California weather not what it is. But
I think because our cloud storage is full.
I love it. I love it because there's so many details to that, Kevin. Our cloud storage is full. And so it has to drop down and empty itself. And those little raindrops are just lots of different bits of data. That's clever. I dig it. But we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to cover. And we are apparently fighting with the uncertainty that is PG&E, as is usual. So we could have a power outage for those of you who are watching live. One of us may lose our power in the midst of things. And, hopefully it's American roulette, folks. It's not even Russian anymore. All right, let's talk first about a bug with Alexa, Amazon's smart assistant, that could have exposed your voice history to hackers. Let's first talk about what voice history is. So as you use your Amazon smart assistant, your device starts to collect some history of your interactions with it. It begins to keep a running record, if you have it set up, of the conversations that you have and things that went well, things that didn't go well, things that you properly were able to get the device to do, things that you weren't. And Amazon uses that information to better its technology. But due to an issue that was published on Thursday, so this would have been last Thursday, there is an issue within Alexa's web services where a hacker could have grabbed a person's entire recorded audio interaction history with Alexa. That, of course, has since been patched, but it existed there for a while before it was patched. And, that's a little concerning, right? I mean, I haven't really talked to Alexa in a while, except whenever she's turned on, or it rather has triggered sporadically, because I still am just such a control freak when it comes to the things that those devices can do. And I just would rather do them myself with the app or whatever it happens to be. So I haven't had too much of an issue with that. And I have my settings set up to automatically delete my history. But I'm curious, Matthew, is this something that, you're concerned about at all?
I'm honestly not that concerned about. I was just looking to see if, I don't even remember if I have it set or not. But it's always worth noting when these types of things happen, just because it is a concern. And I mean, it was an interesting way they did the attack was they used track.amazon.com, which is a legitimate page, but then people would click it and it would redirect to your skills page and add in data, or they could even give you skills. I don't know why. I guess that was just the capability. I don't know why somebody would actually be like, haha, now you have these new skills. You have Samuel L. Jackson on your phone. But it is just like worth noting that they did already fix it, which is good. But always, I think it's, especially we were just talking about it last week, that Google's thing now is off by default. And so maybe Amazon and all of them should follow in the pattern there. Do you? Yeah, I guess you said you already don't have it. So.
Right. And kind of like what we're talking about here, despite the fact that we personally, might not have a concern about this, that does not change the fact that a lot of people, I think, don't have things set up where the information is automatically deleted after a certain period of time, or know how to go about getting to that information. So we will include, there's this excellent article from Wired, and let me send that over, Kevin, in the Google chat, that gives you a very easy way, depending on your voice assistant, to where you need to go to adjust whether Siri, Alexa, the Google Assistant, and rest in peace, Cortana, are keeping track of your interactions and how long they're keeping track of your interactions. So it shows you how to use it on the app. It shows you what website you need to go to, and lets you review your voice history. I recommend... It was a little... Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I recommend going in and setting it so that it expires after a while with Amazon. They give you that option. And I think that's a worthwhile choice to make, is essentially saying, hey, you can keep this around for 3 months, but after 3 months, go ahead and remove this data from your database. And that, in my opinion, sort of meets the requirements that I have, or the desire that I have to provide a little bit of information to better the service without overdoing it and providing a bunch of information to better the service.
That makes sense. I think it threw me off that even just in the app, you go to the privacy page and then it kind of loads a web page with your history. So I was like expecting it to be, it's still in the app, but it's like loading an interface. But yeah, I have mine turned on. And I think the part that I was going to check is I pretty much only use it for music in one room, or ordering espresso, or turning off my LifeX, until 5 days ago when it actually finally worked with HomeKit. After, I mean, we could look it back, but it's been
You've
like
had
3
that
months
forever,
yeah. Like yeah. So I've been using my Echo to turn it on every single time. But apparently I haven't in the last 5 days. But I was going to say, the other thing is how much audio of this that wasn't intended for her did it hear? And I'd have to listen to these. So I don't think I'm going to play those back on the podcast. But pretty much it's like my usage has already dropped since I got that fixed. So that is, yeah, I think I don't mind. I think that is a benefit that I want from Siri. I think the whole part about accessing it from a web page is not something I'm crazy comfortable with, especially because of this stuff, is people can access it and find it, versus if it's on my device itself, that might not be able to happen. So, I don't know. Maybe I want to see them do more of having these local on device, but that is something Google Assistant and Siri can do, and not really Amazon's. So there's not really much there they can do. Yeah, I mean, I guess just again, if you do want to turn this off, go in and adjust your settings. And I have an article in a couple stories that basically recommends you do just that when you get a Google Home.
Yeah. Up next, this is a piece that you had actually we had a little bit of a Twitter exchange, and you said you're going to include this one in today's show. So why don't you tell us about the interview with Amazon's accessibility boss over on Forbes. Tell us what's going on here.
Sure. This is a great article from Stephen Aquino. Do you know how to say his last name? It might be Aquino.
I believe it's Aquino, but I've not inquired.
Okay. But he has long been an accessibility advocate in the Apple space and recently started working on Forbes. So he's been doing these great interviews. But yeah, this is a good one just about a very specific feature for Amazon Fire TV called Text Banner, which is a way to have a large white box appear on the bottom of your screen and just give you a customizable interface to show some of the text that would otherwise not be served by. They have features called Voice View and then Screen Magnifier. And the article is pretty detailed, but it's great to see this kind of commitment from somebody like Amazon especially. And they kind of talk about their teams and things like that, where over 1 billion people in the world, about like 15% of the total population has accessibility needs. And so these types of features have huge impact when you're at a company like Amazon. But I also thought this was particularly interesting because I've just been recently doing color contrast accessibility, and I didn't know about the whole specific ratio of contrast, where if something's not bright enough and if two different colors don't have enough contrast, for specific sizes, there's like AA certification for small text and then AAA certification for large text. So I thought this was particularly interesting having done that. Yeah, it's like, for example, I'm going to have a color yellow on my website that will not look good. It will be readable and accessible, but it basically looks like yellow mush because pretty much no yellow, teal, or pink with a white text is almost readable at all. And it was pretty fascinating, even just doing the experiment, budging through the colors from like just below the level to doing it. And an easy test, if you do have full vision, is just kind of squint and see, can I fully read this? And it was like marking a little bit more black in the color suddenly made it accessible, and I could read it, versus another one, it's like, yeah, I could see how that would be a struggle to read. So I thought this was a cool feature. It's if you really do struggle with especially vision in a particular place, like one of my cousins has limited vision, and she basically described it as like her peripheral vision slowly went away until she could just see what was in the center. And this can kind of put those UI elements front and center for you to see.
That's
oh my.
Yeah, now I'm like squinting to test what text is readable and what isn't. There's a lot out there that could use some work, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
A bit of a feel-good story, which, we could use for sure. Why don't you go ahead and explain this story? I'm sorry.
Sure. I just watched this, or I saw this article from Newsweek, and I thought it was a funny experiment where it's always good to have some lighthearted assistant trolling where this person is calling to get like she's intentionally entrapping herself in a credit card scam where they're like, redeem this voucher for $100, and then they basically scrape your debit card information. But the girl on the live stream pretends to be an old woman and is like, what did you say? Can you repeat that over and over again? But then randomly she'll go, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Like it was her echo responding. And so she's basically playing multiple characters in this live stream with this person who's trying to scam old ladies, essentially. Like, it's good. It's not always great to mess with people, but when there are these kind of people who are preying on the innocent, it's like this person kind of sucks. So I don't feel too bad about it. And it's just
no,
classic.
not at all.
As the person's trying to explain something, she keeps being like, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What did you say about $100 payment and stuff like that? So
I like I told you my email. I made my password too easy, and so my son cut me off.
Yeah, she's like, dear. I get scammed all the time, like, and they're like just still going through it. There's like good moments about like 8 minutes in was she starts doing the repetitive Amazon replies, and then the old lady's like, sorry, what? Can you repeat that whole long sentence again? So gotta love these.
If you need a break and you want to laugh, go check out that video. It's really, really funny. This is. I like an article that sort of flips expectations on their head a little bit, and usually you'll get check out these new features that this assistant has or that this smart speaker has. And in the CNET article by Molly Price, the article's headline is 5 Google Assistant features you should turn off today, which immediately draws me in and makes me go, ooh, what does it do that I don't want it to do? And this kind of goes forth with our conversation before about that ALEXA bug that ended up having your user or your voice history snagged. The same applies to the Google Assistant, of course. If you are interacting with it and you run into some sort of bug that could result in that information being taken, there's ways to reduce the amount of data that the Google Assistant is holding on to. And one of those features that I think is incredibly important for folks to be aware of is not one that's just with the Google Assistant, but is also an Amazon Echo feature, and it's called continued conversation. And essentially what it does is it continues to listen after you've had your first interaction, so that you could say, hey, G, I wonder what the weather is like today. And then G will respond and say what the weather is like today. And then you can go, what about tomorrow? And then G would respond and say what the weather is tomorrow, in theory. Because sometimes it does not have that context, but I'm pretty sure that's one that will work. And that means that from the time that it responds to you the first time until it decides that it should no longer listen for follow-up, it is listening to you. So it is collecting that information and potentially storing that information. So continued conversation might be a handy feature where you don't have to say, hey, G, a second time, but consider the privacy implications of such a feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on Amazon, it's follow-up mode. So I have that turned off, which is good, because that is, especially when I think it mostly just can be frustrating unless you particularly are trying to do a lot with it. It's just going to interrupt you and you're like, oh my God, or something like that. That's always the worst.
Yeah, I found it highly unuseful. It was highly annoying and did not, I think, work as intended, because it didn't work how I wanted it to. And it would just end up picking up parts of a conversation that I didn't intend for it to pick up. So I thought, okay, I'm not leaving this on. This needs to go away.
Yeah. The article also recommends basically turning off those voice assistant or the recording settings, like we were saying, beyond the continued conversation. And then there's also sensitivity options. So if it's picking up stuff or just not listening or something like that. And then, of course, the camera options on the Nest Hub Max or the other smart displays out there. So make sure you check all your settings and be aware of what you are passing to these devices. But like you said, it was pretty funny that I definitely found one of those articles that was saying 6 echo skills that I use all the time. And of course, 2 of them are clearly something they just found and not something they actually use. It's like, come on, guys. It's like, I do want to know what people use the most. And if I guess, but the most and unique at the same time. And so that's always a challenge. But I've got my own shortcuts to do my follow-up mode. So, but then my problem is all of my shortcuts end up having like I think my weather report thing takes about a minute to read out, and every single time, now that when I just ask the weather too, it uses my shortcut, I think even regardless of what phrase I use, which is kind of odd.
Wow.
But nice. But then my girlfriend is like, oh my God, I don't need to know like the visibility distance. And I have like the high and low at the very end too. So it's terrible.
Why?
I need
you
to
gotta
change that.
rearrange it.
You gotta keep them anticipating more, you know?
Okay. It sounds like you're playing a particularly difficult game of Calto. And if you take out the wrong one, then the whole thing's going to come tumbling down, and you don't want that. I like this new feature that's been added. Google has added it to its visual search in Google Photos, Google Assistant, and the Google iOS app, as well as the Google Lens app on Android. And recently on iOS Today, I think it was just actually the last iOS Today, Leo and I covered a bunch of different apps to help kids as they're going back to school, and parents who are trying to help their students who are going back to school. I love that photo, except that he's covering my eyes. That's the only thing. I just wish I could go with his hand. But that's fun. We did have fun with that episode. And on it, we talked about a bunch of different apps that you can use that you take a photo of the stuff that you have written out, an equation that you have written out, and you can get an answer for it. You can also type in, I think it's the Microsoft Graphing Calculator or Microsoft Problem Solver. I can't remember exactly what the app is called, but it is fantastic. Goodness, Kevin, what would I do without you? Microsoft Math Solver. And you, like I said, you can take a photo, you can draw within the app to put out the equations or the formula, and you can also type them in. And it'll help you figure out the problem. It'll show you different ways to solve it. It will give you links to different websites where you can learn more about it. It shows you videos. And so I'm loving that there's all of these different apps and services out there that are helping students with their homework or their schoolwork, particularly given the distancing that is taking place right now. And now Google is trying to simplify the process even further by adding this feature, this functionality to the Google Lens app and service, because it's kind of tied into iOS, Google Photos for iOS, Google Assistant for Android, or the Google iOS app in general, as well as, like I said, the Google Lens app for Android. So you can find it in multiple places, and what it does is exactly what these other apps do. They have a great GIF on Lifehacker. If you scroll down to how to get math and science help, it shows you kind of it playing out. The person puts their phone over the top of this equation and takes a photo, and then the app will kind of help you pull apart the different pieces and show you what you need to know about solving these problems. And I said this before on iOS Today, and I'll say it again. I think something important to understand, perhaps a parent looking at these different apps and seeing what looks like students not having to do their homework, just, taking a photo and having it solved for them, you would think that is kind of all that matters. But and you would not want them to use this. But there are multiple things here that you have to understand. One is that the shame-based learning model is not a good model for true, what is it, pedagogy. I don't know. It's not good for learning. And so the idea that, like, if you don't understand the thing, you just have to not understand it and you're wrong and that's bad. That's not a great way to learn. And I can remember my math teacher in high school. I was blessed to have her all 4 years of high school because she was an incredible math teacher, but she was also, she did not do this shame-based learning model. Instead, we had all of the answers in the back of the book. And it wasn't just the odd answers or the even answers, which is what some math textbooks would do. All of the answers were there. And she knew, and we knew, that we could very easily go and write down the answer from the back of the book if we wanted to. But that's not the point. The point is practicing and understanding so that when those things come around and it comes time to take the exams or what it happens to be, that you are prepared and you understand how to do these math problems. And so having these different apps that can help you with your homework and help you understand it, it doesn't matter that they arrive at the answer, because the math teacher wants you to understand the process of getting to the answer. And so this can help you actually pick apart and understand the details and the steps that are involved.
Yeah, you basically preempted what I was going to say.
Sorry for going. I stepped up on a.
No, totally. I mean, that's a great anecdote too, especially I totally believe my mom was a computer teacher, at least, so she didn't teach me math. I'm glad, I guess, because that would have been hard to learn from your mom. But computers was cool. Clearly, part of why I am who I am. But yeah, I think this is neat. Especially, they've had it in what's called the Socratic app, which is like an educational tool. But I had never heard of that. So now it being in Google Search and the Google Lens and Google Photos stuff is going to be a lot more accessible to a lot of people. And I mean, like, it would probably take me a minute to do some more advanced, especially like written out math calculations, just because I don't do it on a daily basis. And having the tool that actually teaches you how to do it and not just gives you the answer is a good reinforcement tool. It's like, teach you over time and reinforce it over and over again, not just test you on it and then you never use it again or something like that. So, or you just get a computer to do it and don't learn. So this is a nice happy medium between the two. And it is worth noting, it's not actually in the apps yet. Google is just like, we're doing this. So you can test out, if you download this Socratic app now, you can use it, but it'll be integrated into Google Search and all that coming soon.
Cool. Up next, this is... I don't know how I feel about this. Google is investing $450 million, which doesn't that seem like a small number these days? It's like $450 million. What about billions and trillions? That's where we are these days. Anyway, $450 million. Yeah. I got that in my pocket right now. No, Google is investing $450 million in smart home security solutions provider ADT. What does that mean? Google's giving money to ADT to come up with some smart home products that will help with your smart home security. So my quick thoughts on this. One, I've always liked the idea of a company that has a lot of knowledge about a thing and a lot of history about a thing being involved in the development of new products or new services for that thing. Because you can kind of, as a consumer, I can look and see, oh, Kwikset is making a smart lock, and Kwikset's been making locks for 1 trillion years. And so I know they know how to do locks right. That's awesome. And they're partnering with a company that knows how to do cell phone or smartphone control of a lock. That's awesome. But my problem with this is ADT is known for having some kind of crummy contract deals for home security. And I've talked about this before. I know at least 4 families who had ADT installations in their home who stopped using their ADT systems outside of a beeping sound that would trigger anytime the door opened. And I'm talking day or night, anytime the door opened, beep, 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 close the door, beep, 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 the windows, beep, 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 beep. And that was it. They didn't arm the system at night. They didn't have the, type in the code and run out the door and make sure it's closed before the alarm goes off. None of that, because they got tired of it, but they continued to pay for it. And part of that is a privileged kind of existence that, they can afford to pay for that each month. But casting all that aside, it's like trying to get rid of your satellite TV or cable service. It's almost impossible to do. And the exhaustion that develops inside of you just thinking about calling and canceling outweighs your desire to call and cancel. And so I can think of a lot of people who got trapped in these ADT plans and who, ended up paying a bunch of money that these days, that system could be replicated for thousands of dollars less. And so that's the part that gives me totally heebie-jeebies about this.
Yeah, it's that's a good point. I mean, so for anybody who doesn't immediately recognize ADT, it is the blue hexagon is their logo. So like the stop sign, but blue. And I think maybe it was just because of my particular stage of life, but I hadn't remembered ADT until I was at CES. And I was like, oh yeah, those guys. Like that, I do think people, if they have, I mean, that noise might mean to burglars, oh, they have an ADT system and it's not worth it. So that alone is the deterrent, like just the noise.
Yeah, just get one of those signs.
Having the sign in your window. Yeah, exactly. Like that's a huge thing. And it's like if you stopped paying for your home security stuff and then it got broken into, you'd be like, oh my God. So it is kind of one of those things that once people sign up, they stick with it. And maybe that's part of their whole, I mean, it says it's a long-term strategic partnership where it is Google wants people to stick with their Nest stuff too. And I mean, part of it is they have actual professionals who can install it. So now these people will basically be recommending all of these Google products too, which is good for them. And then I think they were also talking about sharing machine learning capabilities. So ADT probably isn't who you think of when you think of machine learning, but Google is. So now they can use that to do basically fewer false alarms and just overall better detection and integrate with Nest Aware and things like that. So it does make sense, but it is just kind of an interesting, pretty large scale for that. That is a big chunk of money. Apparently their stock already doubled when they announced it. So I guess it worked out for them. But yeah, kind of an interesting thing. This happened a few weeks ago too. We didn't immediately cover it, but it's just kind of interesting to see those large scale things. And I believe ADT has some of their own products. All I can think in my head is the image that I used, and I made a little montage video, and they had like a trust fall pit at CES. So you fall into a thing of like blue because it's CES, so they have booths and everything, and it's like, do you trust your security people? Like you do the trust fall, and if you, I don't know if you did it, you got swag or something like that. So
oh my God,
it was totally dumb, but I remembered it, and I remember the logo, and I pretty much hadn't heard of them for a while. But
yeah, you're right. At all those you can make COVID-19 virus loads just rolling around in there. Yummo.
don't.
Sorry, is that too dark?
Could have been too dark. I didn't do it, so I'm glad I didn't, I guess.
I can't wait for that ADT sign. It'll say protected by ADT, ADT.com, and then it'll say from Google. Just like
and Google,
from
Facebook.
By Google.
Exactly. By Nest, by Google, by
exactly. Alphabet. By Nest from Google. ADT by Nest from Google. Oh my God. Oh dear. Oh no. Let's talk about, there you go, ADT plus Googs right there on the Nest Home Hub. Folks, anytime I say, if you're listening to the show and not watching the show, anytime I say, there you go, you can probably count on me responding to Kevin pulling something perfect up for the moment, because that's just kind of the keyword there. So if you're ever going, why is he saying there you go? You should definitely watch the video version of the show to see that. And I do or you do usually try to describe what's going on as well.
Yeah. I've got to update I have that shortcut, but I need to update it for Castro because they added the ability to take the current podcast, take the timestamp, and open it into the YouTube video, which is pretty fun. So I'll share a link of that in the show notes. You know,
sometimes someone comes up with a good idea and it makes sense to have that good idea for yourself. Instagram, by Facebook, unashamedly did that when it added stories to Instagram by Facebook, and it took that from Snapchat, and the founder of Instagram by Facebook said that was something that they were doing. And same thing goes for Reels now, is a copy off of TikTok. So somebody else thought, hey, it'd be a good idea. Let's make an assistant that doesn't take up the entire screen whenever you use it, which is what Siri used to do, and Siri no longer does. And now you can also count on a compact Google Assistant. And I think it's great, right?
Yeah, this is nice. For the article itself is from 9to5 Google about the compact Google Assistant on Android is now in wider rollout for if you're in the beta. So it is basically both assistants, Siri or Google Assistant, when you use them, fully took over the screen, but pretty much starting this fall or now if you're beta testing stuff, they have a lot more minimal, compact. On Siri, or in Apple's thing, it's called Compact UI, where Siri now just shows up as a little popover on the bottom, and Google Assistant does the same thing, where they realized, most of the time you just want the thing that you asked for and not a bunch of extra information, at least immediately, especially because usually it takes you out of the context that you're currently in and becomes almost like opening an app suddenly and then closing it again just to send somebody a message or turn on your lights or something like that. So both Google Assistant and Siri now in the fall will have a much more minimal interface that then you can tap and expand to get more details. But otherwise, it's just a little small thing at the bottom of your screen. So this is a very simple change. It almost seems like silly now that I'm saying it out loud to report about it, but it's kind of wild that we haven't gotten the whole assistant experience on the phone nailed down just yet. It seems like things are still getting tweaked together, and just like, can you do it in this app or what, is all up in the air a lot of times. So I'm thinking this fall, hopefully we can get this stuff sorted out. And then maybe next year or two with Chip or P-Choip, as you like to call it, we can get the smart home devices all aligned too. So hopefully this will all be a lot more smoother, and it'll be Assistance 2021.
Oh my word. The year of assistance. The year of minimal assistance. All right. Let's go ahead and take a quick break before we come back with more news. This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by our pals at Mint Mobile. It's the Fox. I got my first cell phone with one of the big wireless providers years ago, and it was expensive. The high monthly bills are kind of ridiculous. And when you realize that you can save a whole heck of a lot of money by not using one of the big wireless carriers, it's kind of a duh situation. Why not save money each month? Mint Mobile can do just that. By switching to Mint Mobile, you can cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month. $15 in comparison to whatever you're paying right now. And you can save hundreds of dollars. For anyone out there who's looking to save without sacrificing service, switching to Mint Mobile is a no-brainer. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month by going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail. That is how Mint Mobile can pass significant savings on to you. Now, every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text plus super fast 4G LTE service. You can use your own phone. That's the really nice thing. You just take your device that you already have, pop on over to Mint Mobile, and keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Don't have to worry about losing those. Switch now to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless for $15 a month. And if you're not 100% satisfied, don't worry. Mint Mobile has you covered with its 7-day money-back guarantee. I very much enjoy having a Mint Mobile SIM because what I've done is popped it into my iPad. It immediately connected to the Mint Mobile network, and I was able to browse the internet regardless of where I was, even whenever I was away from Wi-Fi. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I have enjoyed the fact that there are times when I have service with my Mint Mobile SIM and my big old wireless carrier doesn't have service. That's pretty awesome. And I love that I can switch it. I put it in my iPad sometimes. Sometimes I put it in the Android device that I have, the Pixel 3, and it's no issue. Works just fine on either of those. So you can get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month with Mint Mobile's 3-month introductory plan and get the plan shipped to your door for free You just head to mintmobile.com/STT. That's mintmobile.com/STT. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/STT. Thanks so much to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All right, if you've got an Android device and you want to track your sleep, good news, because Android phones, all of them, can use bedtime mode and sunrise alarm with Google Clock. This is a feature that was originally only available on Google Pixel phones. So, Pixel 3, Pixel 4, if you have one of those, cool. But you weren't going to get the very cool bedtime mode. Now, Android phones, as long as you have the Google Clock app, you can get the new bedtime features on your Android device. I love these sleepy time, nighttime, bedtime, night mode, night shift, whatever you want to call it. All these modes that are paying attention to our sleep. I promise I'm not going to do a huge monologue here about sleep,
Dr.
even
Mikah.
though I always want to. Right, here it comes. Maybe I need to get like a jacket so that during these parts I can officially become, my handwriting will get a lot worse, and I don't know, I'll look at you straight in the eyes and we'll have a conversation. Anyway, just a quick thing. Genuinely, we have been harming our sleep cycles from the moment that artificial light was introduced to our world a whole heck of a long time ago. And from that point forward, the systems that we have in place, the natural systems that we have in place to determine when we should be winding down and when we should be waking up, have been affected by artificial light. I currently have 5 different lights of different types that are putting light onto my face and into my retinas, and most of them are cool lights, meaning that they are more akin to the light coming from the sun, meaning that right now, all of these things that are pointed at me are telling me, you should be awake right now, you should be up, you should be alert. And as long as those lights continue to be trained on me in that way, that's going to be the case. I'm going to stop after I say one more thing. So I love that we are being more aware of this because, frankly, we've only just started to truly understand, it's sad that it's taken this long, but truly understand the impact of artificial light and particularly blue light. And there are new studies that are looking at retinal destruction, that are looking at eye cancers, that are looking at all these different things and the links of those to the blue light spectrum. So it's good that we're paying attention to this. And I love that all of these things that are trying to help us get better about winding down and maybe not using our phone as much and not blasting our eyes with light or, raising our blood pressure or spinning up our brains and kind of cooling it because of how important sleep is. I love that these features are here. I assume that you do some sleep stuff. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I've been testing wind down in iOS 14 is Apple's version of this. And I think I reported this earlier, but I still have basically barely actually used it because every single time I do, I'm like too tired to think about it. Or it's one of those, it's like a modal that kind of stops you from using it. And all I'm ever trying to do is just dismiss it right away. So it's still one of those things. I need to make an actual project out of it and not just rely on my sleepy morning brain. But I don't, even then, I found the experience isn't as simple as just using auto sleep, which tracks when I take my watch off and when I put my watch on, because I pretty much only ever do that at night when I'm sleeping. So at least for me, that works in terms of very basic going to sleep, waking up data, which is pretty much all that wind down includes too. There is a big shortcuts feature that you can use with it that I'm trying to utilize more in the next few months. I haven't been getting the greatest sleep, so I'm not exactly the best tester of this right now. I'm testing the extremities of the app, let's say. But I like the, what is it called? The sunrise alarm, for Google Assistants is in the morning. It will basically take your phone and slowly get it brighter and brighter with different colors to simulate the sunrise. Because like for most people, you have all of your curtains closed and the room itself isn't going to get brighter unless you buy those shades, which I am curious. Do like those IKEA shades just wake you up every morning when they turn on? Like, don't you hear zzz instead of the sun? So like, that doesn't sound like the most peaceful thing in the world.
I don't know. I'd have to like, I still need to buy that.
Mm-hmm. We've been having a whole, I want to talk about this for a project like next week, but because of all this crazy weather, I've been trying to like the humidity. Even right now, I just had to open my window because I'm like practically sweating right now to doing this podcast. But we have one window where the light streams in the mornings sometimes. And I totally want an automation where if there's no cloud cover, then open the window or close the window. Yeah, then close the window. And if there is cloud cover, it doesn't need to be closed. It's like, I totally want to get those for my office because there's some specific uses for it. But
listen, the best thing my grandma, hi grandma, she does not like to spend money, like at all. She does not like to spend money at all. And I convinced her somehow to purchase a dehumidifier. And this is for places that are particularly humid. And it is, she says to this day, like it's the best purchase she's made in a very, very long time. She was super, super happy with it. And it looks like it's not, oh no, this is so sad. They're out of, it's currently unavailable. I'll have to do some more research then to try and find what the most recent dehumidifier is. So she loves this thing. She has an upstairs and it's a 2-floor home. I don't know why I'm being weird about the way to say that. She has a 2-floor home, and downstairs it's partially earth contact, meaning that part of it is dug into the ground and underground. And Missouri is already a humid place, and it gets humid down there. And it had gotten humid enough where the place started to smell musty. And I was helping her find a humidifier and found this one. And I think it was a wire cutter pick even. And she purchased it, and she was so thrilled with it. And it absolutely changed the way that, she felt about her home and everything because of the difference that it made. So even though I espouse the beauty and wonder that is the humidifier for a home that doesn't have AC, central AC like yours, and that doesn't have the proper humidity management system. Yeah, it could be good. And then you could add that to an automation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you have to pay like $500 to get one that can be automated. So it was kind of out of the willingness range. I mean, I'm definitely reconsidering some of my smart home. Oh, because ours, when we turn it back on, you have to set it again. So at least
you have a dehumidifier.
I don't know. Yeah, I did get one this fall because this spring, because we were having trouble with that too. I mean, at least for us right now, it's just particularly this week is really wild weather. It literally feels like fall in how the humidity is acting up. Like it goes up at night a lot, whereas during the summer, that's usually not a problem at all. But it is just like, it's particularly the hottest time of year. And since we don't have central heating or air conditioning, I pretty much have to like open the windows at night and then close them at a certain time, depending on how hot it is and all that. So it is like, it's been this whole game that's really more about specific levels, not time of day, but I just do it by time of day. And so I just want to get it all together and especially like the shades go up and all that. It's now that you're spending a lot more time at home, this stuff is a little more worth investing. And I mean, just to bring it back around to the bedtime tools thing, is investing in your sleep is always worth it. I can very much tell, especially I've been working from home for like 3 years. And then especially now in the quarantine times, it's very specifically times when I'm being productive and times when I'm being not. a lot of times it's sleep, water, and food, very basic things that are affecting me, not actually, besides existential dread, but other than that, it's just some pretty simple stuff. So it's worth looking into, especially if you're having weird weather like us.
Most definitely. All right, let's see what's next. So for folks who let's go ahead and skip the other sleepy deal. Let's talk about wearables right quick. So Google has some updates in the works and is going ahead and making those known. But according to Victoria Song from Gizmodo, not so great, not so much what people would want. So Google, via its Android developers blog, has listed some of the things that it wants to do going forward, including making sure that kind of the fundamentals are in place. So making sure that the UI, the user interface, is right as rain, locked in tight. Also making sure that it's ready for LTE, so that you can have LTE connections right there on your device. And then hand washing, which is fantastic. So that you can make sure that you wash your hands properly for how long they need to be washed, and some options for weather in the Wear OS, the Wear operating system, just basically built in from Google, as opposed to being a third-party app on the on your watch. So I don't know. I think these are good things to add, but maybe where owners are wanting more from the system, it doesn't quite have everything that that they want it to have, and instead is more akin to adding some features that are expected, I guess.
Yeah, especially in our current times, as people like to say, doing the hand washing thing probably is just a bar for any type of wearable. And I thought this type of story was just worth mentioning because, I like the Input Mag has a similar headline where they say, Google remembers Wear OS exists. They're pretty by the way, this is still around. And I also wanted to pair this with Samsung did recently come out with their Galaxy Watch 3. And so we have a link to The Verge did a whole review on it. And I pretty much just kind of haven't checked in. I keep tabs on the world of Android wearables and things like that, but it hasn't really seen much action at all. And so seeing little updates is good. And the Watch 3 itself does seem like a nice product. Like what you were saying, even the UI things I think have been refined now to the point where even just the basic interface isn't is this a functional thing? Like the round interface and stuff like that, or the Samsung one has a little dial on the top that you can rotate to go through screens and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty neat. It is.
I think twisty dials.
There's more than just the Apple Watch out there, but I do think, reading the Verge article, they were basically for all of the health tracking stuff that it says it does, it's not super accurate. And so if one of the major things you're buying a smartwatch for is health tracking, that kind of stuff isn't as crazy reliable and kind of undercuts the product itself, because just getting notifications on your wrist is great as part of a whole package, but having sleep tracking stuff or step tracking stuff that is underreporting is no fun.
No.
And just bad. Overall, Google is, I can't even remember what stage they are in acquiring Fitbit, but it's kind of this is just at least a hold off point in between probably what they're going to end up doing with Fitbit in the future and hopefully wearables. So it's kind of there's a tiny bit of news now, but then we can probably expect to wait for a while before we hear much else, and hopefully get some real competition, because I think that's always good for a market like this. And people want to see these features. The Samsung one has blood oxygen rating, which the Apple Watch is rumored to get, and stuff like that. So health tracking all around, I'm totally down for. I love wearables as a concept. I use them all the time. I particularly happen to like the functional ones that Apple makes, at least for now. But if they have more out there that are worth checking out, I'd say go for it. So maybe if you got a Samsung, especially, people are saying it might be worth checking out this Galaxy Watch 3.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about ExpressVPN, my favorite VPN. I was just recently reading an article. It came out a while back, and it was talking about how you know that your VPN is telling the truth when it says it doesn't keep your user data. It doesn't collect and store the things you're doing online. And I came across this article and explained it, and ExpressVPN was listed, and it said one way to find out is to actually have your VPN servers gathered by a government or by a government organization, agency, the FBI, whatever it happens to be. And then when those servers are collected and looked at and there's nothing on there, then you know that it passes the test. That's one way to know, because outside of that, no matter what kind of third-party people are looking into it and who is checking if they're actually holding to the truth or not, those can all be kind of an issue. Well, it turns out ExpressVPN did have that come up at one point, and there was no user data on the servers. ExpressVPN, I love you. You're telling the truth, and we know it, and I love that. I think that's fantastic. Now, ExpressVPN lets you access the internet as if you are in a different country. This is one use case for ExpressVPN. Netflix has different shows and movies that are available depending on where you are, and with ExpressVPN, you can unlock thousands of new shows and movies from streaming libraries around the globe. There are hundreds of VPNs out there, true, but ExpressVPN is ridiculously fast, and it's telling you the truth when it's not logging your information. You can stream everything in HD quality with zero buffering. And ExpressVPN, love this too, is available on every device. You can get it on your phone, your laptop, your tablet, even your smart TV. ExpressVPN works with many streaming services: Netflix, Amazon Prime, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, loads. You can choose from almost 100 different countries, and it's so dadgum simple to use. You just fire up the ExpressVPN app, you choose a location, you hit connect, and then refresh the page, and the show or movie you want to watch will magically appear. I used ExpressVPN whenever I wanted to watch. I watched the Netflix version, the US version of The Circle, and it's garbage TV, but it's fun garbage TV. And my partner and I wanted to watch the British version, the original version of The Circle. And so using ExpressVPN, we were able to appear as if we were from the UK, and therefore we're able to watch the BBC iPlayer version of The Circle. And it was fantastic, and I loved it, and got to watch the show we wanted to watch. And there was not any issue with buffering it was, beautiful, high quality video, no problem at all. I genuinely, sincerely love ExpressVPN. If you use our link right now at expressvpn.com/STT, you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free with a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/STT. If you have been looking for a VPN, get ExpressVPN. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to find any other ones. ExpressVPN does what it says on the tin. It holds to the truth of not logging your data, and it works so ridiculously fast that I've got it on all of my devices, and I don't have to worry about that having an effect on whether I can access my stuff as quickly as I want to. So don't spend any more time having to do the research. You don't have to worry about that. If you want to add a VPN to your setup, expressvpn.com/STT. I've dug through it. I've done it myself. It works so well, and they're not logging your data. It's fantastic. expressvpn.com/STT. Thank you so much. All right. So it's been hot, and with that heat comes a need for, in my case, because I have it, AC. And so with an AC, with a central air, you need to have a a thermostat.
I'm just over here sweating.
I love it was very dramatic and I loved it. Love the Foley. So you need to have a way to control your AC. And when I moved in to this stupid, ridiculous in terms of expense. I know everywhere in California is so expensive to live, and so is this. And when you pay a certain amount of money, you think that like, oh, the fixtures are going to be newer and the stove will be stainless steel or whatever. And you get some of those things and you don't get some of the others. So let me just grab really quick the yellowed, decrepit, broken, flimsy, ugly thermostat that was
Chucky boy.
It's just I mean, it's yellow. It's
just
got dings and
square
dents.
or rectangle. Yeah,
it's a rectangle.
The little
which there's rectangle is fine, but it's like that. It looks like they took a skin graft from a Mac from 1984 and turned it into a thermostat and like grew a thermostat out of it. And it's just old and bad. And so I had to, I remember why. I was trying to remember why I turned off the power in my apartment. So I went down to the breaker box and needed to turn off the power. And here's why. So the fire alarm starts going off in my apartment. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just microwaving something, so I don't see how there's any smoke. And so I go upstairs, and my fire alarm isn't going off, but the networked fire alarm that is built into the unit is going off, meaning that somewhere in the line of buildings there is a fire, not in my actual apartment and in my actual townhome. And so I'm like, well, that's fantastic. And of course, it's loud as it needs to be. It's very loud. It's lets you know. So I go outside, mask up, go outside, look left and right, and I see just smoke coming out of this building down the line.
Jeez.
So it technically connected to my townhome and to the townhome to the left and right of me, but it's way down the line and there's a lot of smoke coming out. That's kind of scary, but the fire department arrives super quick and they start dealing with the fire, and one of the fire engines even goes away after a little while because they don't need it. It's clearly a smaller fire. They've got it under control. Unfortunately, those alarms continue to go. And
wow.
I normally, if it's just me in the house, fine. You got alarms. I can deal with it. You got to wait until they say it's all clear. But I've got two small dogs, and one of them was a rescue and anxiety was her big thing. And so that alarm has in the past, whenever they were testing it, it has quite literally made her vomit from stress. And so I was I thought, okay, this is just a thing that is letting me know that there was a fire. There's not a new fire. I'm going to go to the breaker box and see if I can shut it off temporarily. And then I'll just turn back on the breaker box after it's all done. And so I went down to the breaker box and turned off the AC and the furnace, because those were the switch that turns on and off the AC's unit in my actual apartment is literally right next to the fire alarm. So I thought, if they're on they might be on the same circuit, basically. So I went down there and turned them off. It didn't turn off the fire alarm. So what I ended up having to do with the fire alarm was take my acoustic foam that I have for my for podcasting and stuff, and I just put it in front of it. And so it pretty much absorbed most of the sound. And that was fine until they finally shut it off. So that is all a way of me saying that for a moment, this old decrepit thing did not have any signal getting to it. And so it is controlled by, or it's a programmable thermostat, and it is powered by AA batteries, but it gets, of course it's got to get its signal and its actual controls sent to it through the furnace and the AC. So when I turned off the power and turned the power back on and came over to the unit, to this thing, it was saying low battery. And so I knew, okay, that means I need to change the battery soon. And then I thought, oh, right, Mikah, you didn't you got a bunch of rechargeable batteries, but you didn't put rechargeable batteries into it yet. So I was like, all right, I'll just switch out the batteries that are in there for some rechargeable ones. That'll be better in the long run. Well, I go to put the rechargeable batteries in there, and I see that the thermostat's battery terminal is covered in battery acid and is corroded and is gross.
Yeah.
And so I cleaned it off as best I could and put the batteries in there, and it was showing low battery, change battery soon. And then it was just showing low battery, not even change battery soon, which meant that I completely lost control of the AC unit. So I was like, well, this place is going to start getting real hot, and it is not the most breezy place. So even with the windows open, it's going to get hot in here. So I just need to go ahead and do what I was going to do in the beginning, but I never did because I was being lazy about it, which was to install my smart thermostat. So here comes the next step. By the way, folks, if you haven't figured it out, this is the project section of the show, and this is my project. So the next step I'm trying to figure out how to put this old ugly thing back together so I can put it back whenever I move. So I thought, all right, I'm going to install the new one, and here's what's exciting. There are 2 extra wires running from the control unit into that are coming out of basically the hole where it connects to the thermostat, which means that there's probably a C wire. And that's exciting because it means that I don't have to do any sort of power extension. I don't have to worry about finding a way to power the smart thermostat. The C wire is already there, and that's going to give it the power that I need. So to check if it had a C wire, I pulled out my multimeter or multimeter, depending on how bougie you are. And so I pulled out the multimeter and, turned it on for the proper measurements and ran the probes against the R wire and what I believed to be the C wire. And if it was 24 volts, if it measured 24 volts, then I knew that it was the C wire. So I put it on the one wire, and it was showing 24 volts. And I thought, oh, that's great. That means I don't have to do any sort of finagling up where the thermostat or where the HVAC control is. That's fantastic. All I have to do is literally run the wires into the terminals, and I'm done. So I, unscrew the old mount, install the new mount, put all the wires where they needed to go, label them properly and all that kind of stuff, and run the little wire to the C wire. And I had to get the wire strippers out because those 2 wires, of course, were not stripped so that it didn't shock anybody. And of course, by the way, folks, in case you were worried, I had the power off at the breaker again. So this was all done safely. Yeah. And turn it back on, and it's not working.
This was, you have the ecobee, right?
Ecobee. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that part. This is the ecobee Smart Thermostat. It's technically the ecobee 4, but ecobee has renamed it just to the ecobee Smart Thermostat because it's the only one. You can get the ecobee Lite or the ecobee Smart Thermostat. And so I've got the ecobee Smart Thermostat. Yeah, Smart Thermostat. And I turned on the breakers again, and the screen always lights up whenever it's ready, and it says hi. It wasn't saying hi. So I thought, well, crumb. So I go downstairs and I flip off the switches again, and I think maybe it's the other wire that was being unused, and I just touched the wrong one with the probe, which it's not like me, but I thought, let me just go ahead and eliminate all possibilities. So cover up the one wire with electrical tape, and then strip the other wire, pop that into the C, pop the ecobee smart thermostat onto it, flip on the breakers, and still no high.
Oh man.
So I go back with my multimeter, and I run the probes on there again. And then I realize it's a decimal point error. So I thought it was 24 volts. It was 0.2478 volts. So basically it was just the normal amount of like electrical interference signal that would be there, not actual electricity running to those. So then I understand there's no C-wire. I've got to do the power extender kit, which is included with the smart thermostat. So what this works, it basically, you go to the actual HVAC unit and there are wires running to the control board. And I don't know all of the details of it. I just follow the instructions to make it happen. But what it does is it lets you make a fake C-wire almost. It takes the power that the control board is already getting and reroutes it so that you can use it to power your system. It comes with it. It's easy to use. You basically just pop in the control wires from the control board and then reroute some other wires, and then you're done. So
where are you doing this?
So normally
that part of this is,
normally in a house, or at least where I've lived, your HVAC unit is on the, like in the garage or on the ground floor or something like that. Sometimes it's next to the hot water heater. Sometimes it's in your garage, but it's like a gray metal box, and you have to take some take a wrench and undo the nuts or the bolts rather that are holding the front metal panel, and you take that off, and then your control board is in there. In my apartment, I didn't know where it was, and so I thought, I bet it is where I put in my air filters for the HVAC system. So I go upstairs. It's on the second floor. And that's because the reason I was thinking that is because the AC units are on the roof. And so I thought, okay, I wonder if it's there. So I go up into where the AC unit is, or excuse me, where the air filters are. And I undo it. And it's this huge, I mean, it's nearly as long as I am tall. It's this huge panel. And it's connected. It's a trapdoor kind of mechanism. So it's connected on one side. And then whenever you undo the different bolts, then it swings down like this. And on the actual door is where you put the two air filters. Yeah, it takes two air filters side by side as opposed to just one air filter. And I thought, let me just check if where the blowers are and where all this stuff is, if there is a control board. So I get a light and I start looking up and I see, C, G, R, W. Those are all of the, I think Y. Those are all of the letters that corresponds to the control board for your HVAC system. So I'm like, yes, I can actually do it. Because at this point I thought, okay, this is going to be a complicated thing where, because it's a new home, new townhome system, it's going to be somewhere where I don't have access to it because it's not, technically my home, blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't. It was somewhere where I could access it. So I go up, I get my step stool out and my tools and everything that I need, and set up a light and everything, and have the light shining up in there. And then I see the wires, the proper wires that I need running to it, and the two C wires that I thought were maybe the ones that were down at the actual thermostat. Those two were bent back and wrapped around the outside of the wire sheath, basically meaning that they weren't connected to anything this whole time. And that, like I said,
but they were still there at least.
They were there, but they weren't connected to anything. And so I knew then I could confirm for sure, because my fear was that there was something that I would end up doing wrong, and there would be two wires that were like powered in some way that were not connected at anything, and that can be dangerous. So no, completely not connected to anything. They were there. It was good to see that was the case. And so I, followed the instructions to set up the power extension kit. It was a little troublesome because basically you have your arms above you the whole time, so it got a little tiring after a while. And of course, it's slowly but surely heating up in the house. And I know I have AC. I shouldn't complain at all. I realize that, but
that's what's happening
it's starting to get
right
hotter
now.
and hotter and hotter. Yeah, and so that was not fun. But once I got the power extension kit all set up and properly, locked in, I did all of the tests again. I come back upstairs. I look at the smart thermostat, and there is the high. And everything was working perfectly. It takes a while to calibrate, restarts itself. Everything's working. I've got it set up with HomeKit now, so I can say, hey, SIRI, set the thermostat to 72 or 70 or 75, whatever it happens to be. I don't do that though, because again, control freak. So I just open the Home app and set it however I want to. It now is part of, if I want to set up with automations where when I'm in the home, when I'm out of the home, it's all there. And so it was a project and a half, and that's why I had taken so long to do it, because I knew it was going to be a project and a half whenever I did it. But I'm so much happier with this thermostat than that chunky, clunky, bunky thing that was there before. And I would say
trying to program that thing versus using automations.
Exactly. Yeah, it had this stupid programming schedule that made no sense, and you could barely figure out. And so this is, I'm so much happier with this. The ecobee Smart Thermostat is available for $249, so about $250, and it comes with the smart sensor. Back when I worked at iMore, I did an article about the best smart thermostat, and it was, that worked with HomeKit, I think, in that case. And I recommended the ecobee Smart Thermostat. And, in fact, that is still, and I still have a byline on there. How nice. I'll have to share this in the, it's a co-byline now. But that is because there's something unique about the ecobee Smart Thermostat that a lot of other smart thermostats don't do. And that is the inclusion of the smart sensor. These little sensors you place in different rooms in your home that you want to monitor the temperature for. So, for example, the office that I'm in right now and the master bedroom. And then, downstairs, the smart thermostat itself is monitoring the temperature. And instead of just taking the temperature this thermostat is only measuring the temperature surrounding itself. But the ecobee uses the temperature that's surrounding itself in the space around it, as well as the temperature of those different smart sensors throughout your house. And when you set it to 70 degrees, it takes an average of all of those different temperatures. And so it might actually be cooling your house to 68, but it's for the purpose of getting as close to 70 degrees around your whole home as possible. That's what makes this unique. Nice. That's what makes this cool. And then it also has occupancy detection too. So it does a smart follow me feature, meaning that if I'm downstairs and I haven't gone upstairs in a long time, then there's no point in cooling it down to 68 to get it to 70 in the master bedroom, because I'm not in the master bedroom. So I can just cool it to 70 in the places where it can tell that I am. I think it's fantastic.
How does it do that?
Because it uses an IR sensor that's built into the smart sensors. So it will say, okay, you're in this room, and it will tell the main ecobee sensor, okay, he actually is in the master bedroom and he wants it to be set to 70 degrees. So even if it gets cooler downstairs, he's spending his time in the master bedroom right now. So you need to cool it to the temperature that he wants it in the master bedroom. So it's just keeping it running longer. If you have a multi-level HVAC system, I don't know how all that works. That's a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. This is just being smart about kind of finding an average so that it can either cool or heat based on the rooms that you're using. And I think that's fantastic. It also has ALEXA built into it, but I personally don't use that feature. It has an okay speaker in it, but if it was in a place where I didn't already have echoes, then sure. But given that it is in a place where I already have echoes, those are better sensors for it.
I can see it being annoying if you had one and couldn't turn up the temperature without opening an app or something like that. You're like, come on, just let me talk to this stupid thing. But that's cool. Just for clarity, is the extension thing that you were talking about, is that a wireless feature? Just because that's why I was asking, like, where is this happening? Like, for somebody, I mean, I'm almost positive I can't get these, because even just the idea of an HVAC system is like, yeah, no, my house doesn't have anything like that. That's why I have to have my whole like house of cards for the windows and stuff like that. But just, would you have had to wire it, or is it just wireless on its own or something?
No, so I think it might be a fundamental misunderstanding of what the power extender kit does. So there basically there are two ways that there are two, and again, I know there are pedants out there who are screaming, but just give me this, folks. For the average person, in most cases, your HVAC unit kind of has two ways of working. And one, working with a thermostat. One is where, and it's kind of an older version, as is evidenced by that thermostat that I have, where the thermostat is independently powered by batteries and is only connected to the control board of your actual HVAC system to send messages and say, turn the temperature to this, or turn the temperature to that, or turn it off or turn it on the fan, turn off the fan. More modern systems, and even there are some older systems that do this. Instead of having to have that thermostat be powered by a battery, it's just powered by a wire that is also running from the system to the thermostat. In every home that I've lived in, the thermostat itself was battery powered and just sent commands through those wires. And so there was no way to power a smart thermostat with the wires that were there. And so think about how difficult it would be for someone to run new wires all the way from the HVAC system, wherever it happens to be in your home, to wherever the thermostat is in a build that already exists. In a new build, that's a lot easier, but in a build that already exists, that's a lot more difficult. And so thermostat makers of today came up with a clever way of giving you the ability to power the thermostat without having to wire another wire called the C wire to the system, or if there was a C wire that wasn't being used or something like that. So in my case, the C wire was not connected. It wasn't being used. The thermostat was battery powered. And so connecting the ecobee smart thermostat, it needs constant power. And they decided that the usability of having it be battery powered was not good because you'd have to charge it every once in a while if it was a rechargeable battery, or you'd have to replace the batteries. So they want a C wire. And if you don't have a C wire, they came up with this clever little device. And let me see, Kevin, if I can't find ecobee power extender kit so you can see an image of it.
I found a graphic, but not I guess I just don't fundamentally understand. Are you taking this thing and plugging it into your HVAC system somewhere else? How does that now provide power to your ecobee that's in the other room? Wouldn't you have to go wire it? Or you're just saying you just happen to have the wires? Maybe I'm just totally missing something. But
No. I understand your question now. So that you have to here, I thought I had the image, but it did not. Phooey. I do want to grab this image just so that folks can see how it works. Open image in new tab. There we go. Yeah. And then this one also shows kind of all of it. So now I understand your question, Matthew. This is the brilliance of the power extender kit. It uses the wires that are already there without having to add any extra wires at all to provide power to the system. So there are, in my case, I think it was 4 wires that are coming out of the back of the thermostat, where the thermostat plugs in. And none of those was a C wire. And so what the power extension kit does is it goes, you take it to wherever your HVAC system is, And using the existing wiring, those 4 wires, it reroutes power from the system into the proper wires that you already have at the thermostat. And so when you plug it in,
and like
it does all the smarts of trying to figure out how to send power constantly to the system without having to add any new wires.
I see. It's like an electrical fancy thing where it's like repurposing what already exists. So you already do have wires, and you would have had to add your own, but this is kind of just like piggybacking on those. Okay. So in theory, if I have these wires, I can still do it. It's not like you have to go spend $1,000 rewiring your house, but you still need the HVAC system. So
yes, if you don't have the central air,
I'm like, I think since you started describing it and the end of it, I've been getting like warmer and warmer too. You're like, oh, it's so cool. It's slowly getting colder, and I'm like downing water to keep my insides cool.
I'm so sorry.
It's just, I only need it like 3 weeks out of the year, and the rest of the time it's fine. So maybe
if you live in a place,
it's a lot of money. Yeah, it's worth doing.
I think it's absolutely worth it. If you live in a place that you need a thermostat, and I think it's better than the Nest thermostat for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's only like $30 more, I think. So pretty comparable.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, you get those little satellites that you can put all over the place to
that's good.
Help it average. All right, let us take a breath and come back with our picks of the week. All right, what is your pick of the week, Matthew?
Planta. It's it's an app to help you keep your plants alive. I love the pitch because my plants aren't doing so hot. Maybe because it's so hot, but this is a free app to download and try. I did pretty quickly get to the point where it's a paywall, so I'll talk about that in a second, but it basically lets you input the plants that you have, where they are in your house, and kind of like the lighting of the room. And then it can remind you to water them properly, because I think that's one of the big things, especially for our house, is there's so many different plants that, like even just variety of plants like succulents or other ones, that once you start doing it, you kind of either get on a good schedule for one of them and the rest are underwatered, or you have to do this whole variety of systems. So I wanted an app that would let me not think about it anymore. Pretty good solution there. It is $35 a year, which immediately I was kind of like, oh, well, I'm not going to pay for that. But then once I realized I bought a plant, plants, I don't know what an average plant costs, but you could buy one for $35 or so. And then if the plant dies, you basically wasted that money. So I figured this would be a worthwhile investment if you were trying to keep plants alive in your house, especially now that we're all going to be at home for an extended period of time. It really makes a room feel nicer. Like I've got a little plant here behind me, and I think just the fresh air that it kind of helps with, and keeping your space not stale. Like it's amazing how much a couple plants and putting stuff up on the walls makes a huge difference in your space. We've totally improved our bedroom just by putting up posters that we had for a long time that we never actually bothered to mount. And I want to keep my plants looking nice. Like a huge thing I need to do is cut off all the dead parts, because then you're not trying to send nutrients to a part of a plant that's already dead, and just let it regrow. You'll be surprised how much that actually works. And I just want to get my stuff on a good schedule and not think about it. Especially, repotting, that's some of the premium stuff, is like when you should repot it, when you should add nutrients and things like that, that starts to get, I don't want to manage any of those schedules. So I think a big thing with this app too is it just looks nice. Like it's a modern version, and they have a sustainable business model. So it's not just a little cheap app or something like that. I think it could be good for the long run, which is nice. So Planta. You a Planta? I don't know. I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. My pick of the week is actually a mask that I wanted to mention. It's become my favorite mask. When I mentioned that I had to run outside yesterday and mask up real quick, this was the mask that I put on. It's from a company called Wear, WAYRE. And it is the cool thing about this mask is that it is you can buy it in different ways. So if you buy one mask, it costs $18, and that is because along with paying for your own mask, it includes a donation. So one of those masks will be donated, but you can also get it in bundles. So I got a bundle of 3 for $26.70. It has Google Pay and Apple Pay right on the site. And these masks are, they're called high-tech washable mask. And that is because of the way that they have filtering. So it's 5 layers, I believe. Yeah, 5 layers of filtering. And it says that they are 99.9% effective as a cloth mask. So you get water repellency, you get NPTFE, nanomicroporous film that filters out viruses and bacteria, and also the iron bar that's in it that fits around your nose is extra long, so it really seals against your nose and doesn't put it doesn't fog up your glasses, sunglasses or glasses, whatever you have, where some masks, because the nose bendy thingy is kind of short, it doesn't seal properly around the nose. This does a really great job of sealing around the nose. And then also the way that the mask is made is like the medical surgical masks. And so it's kind of accordion and it fits around your mouth very, very, very well. I've been very impressed with these. The way that they suggest cleaning them, spray some isopropyl alcohol on both sides of the mask, wait 15 minutes, then hand wash with laundry liquid in cold water. And that, as opposed to, sticking them in the laundry, that makes them last longer. And it is, I don't know. I think that it's an understated mask. It doesn't have any logos on it or anything like that. They're easy to get and they work super well and were super easy to get on. It comes in both black and white. And then it's also the fact that these are made in a sustainable and ethical factory that pays living and fair wages. So I think that's an added benefit of making sure that you get a mask that is not coming from a place where people are not making a living wage, and they're sustainably made as well. So super, super nice and a very high filtering rate in comparison to some other fabric and paper masks that are not as high at filtering out particles.
Is it comfy?
Very comfy, super breathable. Like I said, the biggest thing is that when I've bought masks before, because I like my Ugg Monk mask that you recommended, but that was the only other mask that I purchased that actually fit my face. I've bought, what are the names of these? What are these shoes? Adams. Adams. I bought the mask from Adams, and I love the shoes, but the masks, no matter the size, I couldn't get them to fit I didn't like how they fit my face. And then I bought some other masks that didn't fit my face very well. These, because of the way that they're made with that accordion style fitting, they fit so well. They fit so well. The bands that come on the sides that are for your ears, those come untied. So you actually put it against your face, you fit it to the right size that you want, and then tie it. So yeah, it's great. I think that these, they're super comfortable. They're very breathable. And like I said, that extra long nose bridge thing is what really sets these apart. Also fast shipping. If you're looking for masks and you've had trouble kind of getting masks elsewhere, I've seen super, super fast shipping, and there is something to be said about having Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever your payment platform is right there on the site. It makes it easy to order and get them. So yeah, I dig them. I think that these are super great masks.
They've got white and black up to, you can get a bundle of 100 if you're really feeling like it. Nice. That looks cool.
Yeah. You want to share them with people? Man, that'd be cool. Just buy 100 masks and donate them. All right. that, folks, is going to do it for us this week. If you have questions, project ideas, if you want to share your smart home setup, any of that kind of stuff, you can email us, stt@twit.tv. Audio, video, text, any of those will work to get us that information. Of course, we record the show live every Monday, typically at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 2300 UTC. Today, we recorded things a little bit early, and depending on the power situation going forward, could be a little bit early or not, but around about the 4 p.m. Pacific, you can tune in. But you don't have to watch live if you don't want to. You can get the show right when it's available by heading to twit.tv/STT, where you can subscribe to the show in all the various formats, whether it's audio, video, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're everywhere, and you can find us everywhere. The show will download when it's available. You don't have to worry about it in that way. If folks want to follow you online and see all the cool work you're doing, Matthew, where do they go to do that?
They should check out MatthewCassinelli.com. I did run into some technical difficulties with my project, so it may or may not be out yet. But if people are still interested in testing, I've got a couple people. I'm going to be sending out some invites for a little beta test this week. So send me a DM on Twitter at Matt Cassinelli. What about
Beautiful. You? I'm at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks. And you can also head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the different places I have work or where you can follow me online. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. And it is time to say goodnight to your smart assistants. And don't forget to remove your voice history. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go stand in the freezer.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, host at TWiT TV. Got a question for you. Have you gotten tired of how bad your photos are looking every time you post them to Instagram? Better yet, have you gotten yourself a new camera and you can't quite figure out why the images just don't look that good? Well, I have a solution for you. This is my show, Hands On Photography. Each and every Thursday, I sit down and share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post processor. So subscribe today at twit.tv/hop to learn more.